Welcome to Built on Faith Homestead, where we like to talk about things like tiny houses, growing your own food, raising animals, wild edibles, hunting and fishing, maybe a little bit along the way, and for sure like to talk about the Lord. Thank you guys for joining us for this tiny house talk. Our tiny house talks have become probably our most popular videos, which is pretty cool for us. It's just me today, so Melissa has got a few things she's trying to get done and can't do a video right now. And so I told her I would do the video all by my lonesome, and she was cool with it. Different environment. We were in a pickup truck. I'm just sitting in the pickup truck out in front of the tiny house because the kids are all napping and I have a loud voice and I don't want to wake them up. That is part of living in a tiny house sometimes. Today's conversation, this applies to tiny houses, and truthfully it applies to just life in general, right? I'm going to show you guys a picture real quick. So what you see in that picture was a mistake that I made. And not just in the building of the little thing there that you've seen, but that's actually covering our sewer pipe. Whenever I had them set the tiny house, this is some family land, and the guy that owns the land, he wasn't able to be up here whenever they set the house, and I just kind of had to guess, right? I seen the water, I seen the electric, I seen all that. I didn't know where the sewer was, and so I just had him set it here, and I missed our sewer pipe by about 10, 11 feet, something like that. And the way everything was pitched, the only way I could figure out how to keep everything the way that it already was and still attach our sewer line from our tiny house to that was to build a little, we call it our ghetto shed, around the tiny house. It's slapped together with some used pieces of tin we had laying around, some scrap lumber. I try not to buy much for it. I would just save a piece here and save a piece there. And all it is a shell around our sewer pipe to keep us from running it over and those kinds of things. Life is not always perfect. Things do not always go exactly how we want them to, right? So I missed the sewer pipe by, that many feet. Now, I want to stress in this video, we are going to talk about life not always being perfect, and how we need to work through those types of things. But that is not to take away from the idea that we need to try hard to do things the right way. When you're building a tiny house or finishing out a tiny house, right, you need to try hard to get your measurements right. You need to try hard to get things square and all that kind of stuff, which may mean sometimes, man, it just didn't go right and you got to tear out a wall or tear out some sort of paneling or flooring or something and just redo it because it just didn't go how you needed it to, right? That is part of it. And other times, it is learning to just kind of roll with the punches. That sewer pipe, the very best thing that I could come up with, right? I could have had him come down and try to jockey the tiny house over again. That would have cost a pretty penny, I'm sure, to have him come and try to move the tiny house and reset everything up and all that kind of stuff. I could have redug maybe some of the sewer pipe or whatever, but that would have been a bigger undertaking than what I really wanted to take on. And this shed, little ghetto shed of a thing, was the best thing that we could think of that was fairly quick, fairly easy, hopefully cost effective by using scrap material that we have around, and it will work. It's not perfect. It's not pretty. It is an eyesore of sorts. Once again, this is not if this was a permanent situation where we planned on living here a really long time, maybe I would have done something different. But we plan on living here long enough to find some land one of these days, good Lord willing, that we can move on our own land, right? But man, life is it's not always perfect, man. Things just go wrong sometimes. I know I relate a lot of things back to football. I spent a lot of years playing football growing up, from the second grade up until a couple years in college, right? And I was not the best football player on the planet, obviously, or I'd be playing in the NFL, right? But I learned a lot, and football taught me a lot, and it's an important thing in my life, right? And one of the coaches in my high school, man, he was really big on, he's an old-timey coach. His name was Pappy. And during our practices, we would have these drills where we would push the sled like the linemen do, right? If you know anything about football practicing and all that, the linemen will have some sort of big 5-man sled that they push. And we would push that sled, and then after we got done doing right shoulders and left shoulders and this and that and the other, he would make us, he would say, life's not perfect, right? And we would have to turn sideways and kind of be on all fours and kind of push with our hip or whatever. And the whole point of that was, sometimes, like when you're blocking a guy on the offensive line and you're an offensive player and you fall down or something happens, your feet get caught up. The point was to not quit, but to keep trying even though it's not perfect. And that applies to building a tiny house. That applies to your work environment. That applies to, I would even say, serving the Lord. Sometimes you fall. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you mess up. And rather than giving up, sometimes you just have to roll with the punches, and you have to do things imperfectly, right? And you have to be okay with that. And you can't let yourself get so beat up by doing something that's not just exactly perfect or just exactly right that it freezes you and it locks you up and it doesn't allow you to keep moving. This truck that I'm in doing this video, man, we were so happy and so blessed, and we had prayed about buying a truck after we sold our house. We knew we needed one, and this one come up, and we thought it was for the right money, and we prayed about it and felt like it was the right thing to do, and we went up there to get it, and drove it, an hour home. I was driving it back and forth to where our tiny house is, building it every single day, and what a blessing, right? And man, things were going great, and then it started messing up. And I ended up having to put a new motor in the truck. Now, praise the Lord, we have a mechanic that goes to our church, so I had somebody very well trusted that I could use to put that motor in, and he was able to get the truck in and do the work for us, and what a blessing that was and is. But we had an option, right? It's you curl up and you give up, or you just kind of roll with the punches and you do the best you can. Now, praise the Lord, we had just sold our other house, and thankfully we had the money in the bank in order to get a motor and to have somebody put it in. Typically speaking, we would not have probably had that, right? The situation just worked out. And I told the wife later, I said, truthfully, probably couldn't have picked a better time to have the motor blow up in that truck, right? 10 years from now or 5 years from now, maybe would have been a lot harder on us. So it's okay, right? We'll roll with the punches. Was it fun? No. We had to use my mom's other car, which, praise the Lord, she let us use it in a trailer, and I had to use straps and strap everything down on this little trailer, and it was a pain in the hind end, but we could have said, well, we don't have a truck, we got to stop building, or we could have just rolled with the punches and kept working and kept chipping away at it. In your life, rarely do things go perfect, right? Learning to roll with the punches, learning that sometimes you're going to fall and you just need to keep moving forward, even if that is one little bitty step at a time, will go a long ways to helping you out, not just in building a tiny house, but in life, and like I said, your service to the Lord. So guys, it's a pretty short video because I don't have Melissa in here I know she doesn't much talking, but she really adds some good points a lot of times, but she's in there working right now. Guys, life is not always perfect. Please don't let that stop you from trying life. We had a conversation with Luella. You guys watched our video about finding mushrooms and going turkey hunting, and if you see that video, you watch it long enough, you'll watch where we talk about Melissa getting bit by a copperhead, right? It bit her boot. It didn't bite her, it bit her boot. Thank the Lord it didn't get through her boot. But we had a discussion with Luella after we showed her that snake, and I wanted that image of that snake to kind of get burned in her head, so she knew, because it's one of the few poisonous snakes we have here in Missouri. But I wanted her to when we got done and everything got calmed down, she was terrified, right? She was scared to walk back over into the woods at all or anything. And I felt the need to explain to her, especially because she struggles with this is life is full of risk. I mean, no matter what you do, right? No matter if you want to sit in a recliner and not touch nothing, then you risk getting blood clots, right? and because you're not moving. If you want to get out and about and look for mushrooms, like, you might run into a snake, right? You may twist an ankle. You may fall down. If you want to go fishing, great, you go fishing, but you may end up in a storm, or you may end up in a boat and wreck the boat, or whatever, right? Everything has risks, but you can't let that stop you from doing the things in this life that you're supposed to do, in the Lord especially, or things that you would enjoy. You just can't let that stop you. There's always risks involved. Same thing with failure. You're gonna fail. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna make mistakes. The very first time you ever do anything, you're probably not going to be perfect at it, right? It's gonna take some time. Don't let that stop you. Keep pressing forward and keep pressing on. And just because something's maybe not perfect, working on this tiny house, I can take you to every mistake in the place, right? Because I built it, and I drove every nail and screw and all that good stuff. And I can, yep, this is a mistake here, and that's a mistake there, and this is a mistake here. If you've never done anything like this, never remodeled, never built, never done nothing, and you decide you're going to do this, I want to tell you, first of all, you can do it. You don't have to be terrified of it, right? At the end of the day, you need to have a solid roof over your head and something that'll keep your head dry when it rains. That's what you're looking for. Everything else is a bonus, right? But when you're doing this, and man, maybe a piece of drywall or paneling or something, it's got a little gap in it, and it's just not perfect, and all this kind of stuff is driving you nuts, and you put some filler in there, but man, if you really get down and you really look, you can see the filler, and you're the only person that's ever going to see it probably, but nobody else is going to. That's okay. Every single house that you go into, if you've done any sort of this type of work at all, if you look hard enough, you'll find the mistakes, right? A lot of the trim guys, they'll have like wood putty or caulking in the trim where they didn't get the trim cut just exactly right. Electricians mess up, framers mess up, right? You're gonna have some mistakes along the way. Life's not always perfect. Just keep pressing on. If you have to tear something out and redo it, tear it out and redo it, right? Of course, it makes me mad too. I get it. My temper is not near as bad as it used to be, but it still makes me mad. And it's frustrating. I was working on a piece of paneling in this house, and the third time I cut it wrong, I throwed it out the front door and out in the middle of this field. And it wasn't that paneling's fault at all. It was just this red beard and me getting agitated, right? And I stopped, and I ate my lunch, and I tried to cool off. And you know what? The next piece I cut went just fine. But you can't give up, right? You got to keep pressing on, even when it's not perfect. Guys, thank you guys for watching. We'll catch up to you next time. If you like these types of videos, please like and subscribe. We got some exciting things in the works now that we got the truck back and we've got it ready and roaring and ready to go now. We're going to start on some goat shelters, and we're going to start on some chicken stuff and all kinds of stuff. And we may potentially have some other animals in the works as well. So stick along with us. Gardens growing, all that kind of stuff, wild edibles. If that kind of stuff piques your interest, please give us a subscribe. Hit your notification bell so it'll notify you every time we put a new video on. Also check us out on Leaving Egypt Bible study page. As important as the content is we put out on Built on Faith Homestead, the Bible study page, I'd say, is even more important. I don't put as much videos out because it's a lot harder to get everything lined up to do those videos. Also, check us out on Rumble on Leaving Egypt. We put both, it's just one channel over there, and we put both our homesteading stuff and our Bible study stuff on there. Thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. When life ain't perfect, just keep pressing on. We'll catch you next time.